Welcome to this Douglas Academy video for Broad General Education English. We're going to be having a series of lessons on a short story called Lamb to the Slaughter by Roald Dahl, and this will lead to the writing of a critical essay. These lessons are designed to support you with your study of a literature text. They're suitable for S1 to 3 pupils wanting to write a critical essay and cover a number of essential skills: listening to text, reading and analysing text, selecting quotations, planning, structuring and writing a critical essay. Lesson 2, the first unexpected event. We're going to start by listening to the second section of the short story. Did you guess correctly what was going to happen next? Tired, darling? Yes, he said, I'm tired. And as he spoke, he did an unusual thing. He lifted his glass and drained it in one swallow, although there was still half of it, or at least half of it left. She wasn't really watching him, but she knew what he'd done because she heard the ice cubes falling back against the bottom of the empty glass when he lowered his arm. He paused a moment, leaning forward in the chair. Then he got up and went slowly over to fetch himself another. I'll get it, she cried, jumping up. Sit down, he said. When he came back, she noticed that the new drink was dark amber with a quantity of whisky in it. Darling, shall I get your slippers? No. She watched him as he began to sip the dark yellow drink, and she could see little oily swirls in the liquid because it was so strong. I think it's a shame, she said, that when a policeman gets to be as senior as you, they keep him walking about in his feet all day long. He didn't answer, so she bent her head again and went on with her sewing. But each time he lifted the drink to his lips, she heard the ice cubes clinking against the side of the glass. Darling, she said, would you like me to get you some cheese? I haven't made any supper because it's Thursday. No, he said. If you're too tired to eat out, she went on, it's still not too late. There's plenty of meat and stuff in the freezer, and you can have it right here and not even move out of the chair. Her eyes waited on him for an answer, a smile, a little nod, but he made no sign. Anyway, she went on, I'll get you some cheese and crackers first. I don't want it, he said. She moved uneasily in her chair, the large eyes still watching his face. But you must eat. I'll fix it anyway, and then you can have it or not as you like. She stood up and placed her sewing on the table by the lamp. Sit down, he said. Just for a minute, sit down. It wasn't till then that she began to get frightened. Go on, he said, sit down. She lowered herself back slowly into the chair, watching him all the time with those large, bewildered eyes. He had finished the second drink and was staring down into the glass, frowning. Listen, he said, I've got something to tell you. What is it, darling? What's the matter? He had now become absolutely motionless, and he kept his head down so that the light from the lamp beside him fell across the upper part of his face, leaving the chin and mouth in shadow. She noticed there was a little muscle moving near the corner of his left eye. This is going to be a bit of a shock to you, I'm afraid, he said, but I've thought about it a good deal, and I've decided the only thing to do is to tell you right away. I hope you won't blame me too much. He told her. It didn't take long, 4 or 5 minutes at most, and she sat very still through it all, watching him with a kind of dazed horror as he went further and further away from her with each word. So there it is, he added, and I know it's kind of a bad time to be telling you, but there simply wasn't any other way. Of course I'll give you money and see you're looked after, but there needn't be any fuss. I hope not, anyway. It wouldn't be very good for my job. Now that you've listened to the text, we're going to look at 3 questions while you have a closer look and read the text. We'd like you to answer the questions and write down your thoughts in your jotter. And please try to pick out a quotation from the text to back up each of your answers. Number 1. What signs are there that something is different about Patrick that evening? Number 2. What do you think the bad news is that Patrick tells Mary? And number 3. Who do you feel sympathy with at this part of the story and why? Take a short break here to do your work before you move on to the next slides, which will take you through some possible answers to these questions. So what signs are there that something is different about Patrick that evening? Well, you might have looked at the following quotation where it says Patrick did an unusual thing. He lifted his glass and drained it in one swallow, although there was still half of it, at least half of it left. Clearly Patrick comes home most evenings and has a little drink after work. Mary's clearly got this ready and set up for him. But the fact that this is something he doesn't normally do, lifting it all up and draining it, shows that he's probably a bit stressed. We can probably look back in retrospect and think, well, he's probably drinking the alcohol to give him courage to confess to Mary about what he's done. You can also see, though, from the dialogue that something is wrong with Patrick. Look at all of his one-word responses when Mary's asking him questions. He says, no, I don't want it. So Mary's trying to speak to him, but really not getting much out of him at all. He appears to be behaving in quite a rude way in response to her kindness. So what do you think the bad news is that Mary's told? Well, having a look back at the text, you'll realise that we're not told the details of what this bad news is, and this makes it even more mysterious. This has been done quite deliberately by Roald Dahl. It means that as readers, we're left to imagine the very worst thing that Patrick might have done. We can assume, though, that Patrick is leaving his wife and giving up on their marriage. He says, I hope you won't blame me too much. Well, this suggests that he has done something wrong. However, we're not told exactly what this is. Instead, the narration focuses on Mary's reaction. Here's her reaction. And he told her. It didn't take long, 4 or 5 minutes at most, and she sat very still through it all, watching him with a kind of dazed horror as he went further and further away from her with each word. This narration focusing on Mary makes us feel a lot more sympathy from her because we really see all the emotion she's going through as she's told this bad news. This event is the first unexpected thing that happens at the start of the story, as prior to this it looked as if Patrick and Mary had a really happy marriage. Your third question is asking you who you feel most sympathy with at this stage in the story. And it's likely that you have chosen that you feel the most sympathy for Mary. She seems like a good wife who loves and cares for her husband. She's also 6 months pregnant and being abandoned. Patrick also seems like a really selfish person. Whatever his reason is for leaving her, he's putting his own needs above those of his wife and unborn child. And all he seems to care about is reputation. At the end of the extract, he even says, there really needn't be any fuss. It wouldn't be good for my job. Because the story mostly focuses on Mary and her feelings, Dahl is encouraging us at this point to take her side rather than Patrick's. So what have we learned in this lesson? Let's check your understanding. The first key event that happens in the story that is unexpected is that Patrick tells Mary some bad news. He is leaving their marriage. The techniques that Dahl uses create sympathy for Mary. You should now be able to evidence this idea using quotations from the story.